Osbert. I'm an optometrist by profession. Then I work with the Mega Optical Center, which is located at Zambia, next to Gil's petrol station. So we do deal in eye care services, the checkups, examinations, the diagnosis, and then finally the management of the eye issues. So I'm so privileged to have this chance to at least talk about the eyes, the care, what things can affect our eyes, and how best we can manage them in case we do realize that we have those eye issues. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you too very much, Mr. Osbert. We don't take it for granted. He's the eye specialist for today. We have who's going to take us through eye health and things you are the viewers you could do, which could give you a proper or add some good most care for the eye. And yet, maybe before even we go deep into this eye health, a viewer may not know what is the eye and what could be the roles.
Okay, so the eye is an organ on our body like any other organ. So an eye is an organ specifically meant for the sense of vision, seeing. All that we see outside, whether where or where, is all facilitated by just these two small structures on our body, which we call eyes. So ideally the function of the eye is to see. Everything we see happens with the use of the eyes. All that we do at least involves the eyes. That is if one has not lost sight to the extent of not seeing. But ideally it is the eye that you use to see. Then what you see, that image, before you actually know that what I'm seeing is a bottle, is a book, is taken by the eye. The eye now takes that image. That image is sent to the brain for interpretation. Then the interpretation comes back that what I'm seeing is a book, what I'm seeing is a phone, what I'm seeing is the other one. So in general, that is what the eye does, and that is the main use of the eye. That even in everything we do about eyes is to make sure we maintain the health, the care of the eye within the limits that we at least keep up with good quality vision.
Then also, since today we are majorly looking at the eye health and care, are there some specific, like, let me call them like disorders of the eye, classes of types?
Before I go first deep into the disorders, how an eye is affected, because time will come when I'm talking about something, then one fails to get it simply because we missed, or I didn't explain the structure of the eye. Ideally, for us as people, what we see on an eye, we just see something like this. That is what you see when you look at somebody, that this is an eye. Otherwise, there are different structures on the eye that if we miss it now, later on we will fail to actually understand that what we are talking about is this other part or the other one. So I really want to first take us through the structure of the eye, and the functions of the different parts of the eye. So in the first place, an eye is actually like a ball. It is something that is like a ball like this one. Only that first what we see here on somebody's eye is this white part, which is called the sclera. Then it has a membrane, transparent, covering it, called the conjunctiva. Then that conjunctiva has some blood vessels on it. That is why an eye may never appear purely white, because of the conjunctiva that has blood vessels on it. Then there is this part here that when you look at that part, this part here, which we look at and it appears black.
Yeah.
But in actual sense, that part is not black. It is called the cornea. And actually the most important part of your eye, because it is transparent, so it facilitates light to pass through it so that it can go inside the eye, the cornea. What we see as black in the eye is the iris, which iris is actually inside behind the cornea, and that iris has a hole, a circular hole in the middle, which we call the pupil.
Actually, because also when you look in the eye, there is that black color, then also the deep.
The circular one,
yeah,
which is more dark. So ideally, this one that we look at black is the cornea and transparent and not black. It is the iris behind it that is now looks black, but it has a hole in the middle, which is the pupil that now looks the darkest in somebody's eyes, that circular hole. So behind that circular hole and the iris, there is another structure which is called the lens, which is also transparent. So this lens, its function is its focus. What you see, for it can enlarge or reduce in size, depending on the distance you're looking at, focus an image so that it comes out clearly. It is also transparent, so it allows light also pass through. If I showed a cross section of an eye, we can use something like this. Now this is a structure. If an eye is cut into two, you cut an eye like this into two sides that you are looking at it from the side. So that can facilitate you to see that this one here that is curved is actually the transparent part I talked about. If you cut the eye into two, what we see here as this curved part is that transparent one I talked about, the cornea. Then, now what continues from this curve, from here to here, here to there, is this white one, which is called the sclera. Then, behind this transparent one, the curved one, is a black one, the iris, which has a hole in the middle, the pupil. Then behind it, there is a lens, which is also transparent, which does the focusing. Now, light comes from an object you are looking at, passes through that transparent cornea, passes through this hole in the black one, the pupil, passes through the lens, which is also transparent, until it reaches the back of the eye, which is now the film where the image is formed, and that part is called the retina. So the image is formed on this part, the retina, meaning it's used, it's where the image is formed. Then we have this part here, which is the optic nerve. So it is this nerve that connects to the retina, the film, and then images are sent to the brain for interpretation through that nerve. Then the other part I haven't talked about the eyes. These ones, these muscles, this skin and the muscles that cover the eye, these are called the eyelids. They have hair on them, which is called the eyelashes, which ideally prevent things from falling into our eyes. Then the other use of the eyelids is definitely to close and cover and protect the eyes. So generally that is the structure of the eye that we'll now be looking at and comparing with what conditions and infections can affect our eyes and which parts can be affected by those conditions.
Hope the viewers have gotten to see the image of an eye and the role it plays. So now you have taken us through this visual thing of how the eye looks like, and even the viewers have gotten to understand. So what are the diseases or maybe the disorders specifically which could affect the eye?
The things that affect the eyes can be classified into two. One There are those ones which we call eye disorders or eye conditions, mostly related to the sight, how best somebody sees the vision. Then there are those ones that could actually be infections, depending on what causes them. So the other side of the eye conditions or disorders, there are things that we call refractive errors. Now, these ones just affect how best somebody sees. Majorly it is about the sight and vision. And one of them is short-sightedness. If one is short-sighted, the other one is long-sightedness. Then the other one is presbyopia. Then the other one is astigmatism. Now, on the other side of the infections, we can be affected by different kinds of infections, depending on the part of the eye that is being affected. Whether it is the membrane I talked about that covers the white part, the conjunctiva, which also covers also inside the eye, up and down these eyelids, also have that covered. So that could be called conjunctivitis. Sometimes it can be allergic conjunctivitis, or caused by bacteria, so bacterial conjunctivitis, or caused by a virus, so viral conjunctivitis, or caused by anything that could even be like trauma, that something may be damaged to that part of the eye, which ideally most people call red eye disease.
Actually, but it's been common these days.
But then you realize that it can be different forms of red eye disease depending on what causes. Then the other infections also affect the cornea. It could be a corneal ulcer, something scratched the eye and you have an ulcer there. An ulcer is a wound. An ulcer I'm talking about is the ulcers, plural. Somebody may only think ulcers on the stomach and so, but an ulcer is the idea, the term that means a wound. So it could be there. Then other diseases, depending on what could be caused, can affect the lens to become opaque, like cataract. There are other diseases also that affect the structure of the eye, that between the lens that I talked about and the cornea, these two transparent structures, that space we call it the anterior chamber, and it has an aqueous humor. So that aqueous humor is produced and reabsorbed. So if the rate at which is reabsorbed is less compared to the rate at which it is produced, it means you will have a build-up of pressure in the eye, which now becomes ocular tension, ocular hypertension. Then in the long run, that pressure building up causes issues that it makes this space here is what I'm talking about, the anterior chamber here, having aqueous humor. So if the pressure builds, it pushes the lens onto the vitreous humor and the retina, which now keeps destroying the nerve plus the retina, a condition called glaucoma. Then the lens itself can also have its own diseases affecting it, like cataract, which opacity is in the lens. So maybe even the retina can also have its conditions affecting it, like diabetic retinopathy, maculopathy, hypertension retinopathy. So we will break down these later on to actually find out what is what and what is caused by what and how can it be managed and solved.
Maybe you can be short-sighted, maybe you can be long-sighted. Let's first begin with short-sightedness. Because a viewer may just hear when you talk about short-sightedness, is it in terms of like the one perceiving it like I'll be seeing near things?
All those eye disorders. One of them is short-sightedness. But then what is short-sightedness? Short-sightedness is that I cannot see far things clearly. It is only near things, maybe within 1 meter or 2 meters, that I see clearly. Things beyond don't appear clear. Now, that one would mean that there are two things that can cause that. One, your eyeball, the distance from the cornea up to the back of the eye is longer than normal. That this cornea and the lens push the image, but the image stops somewhere and it does not reach on the retina for it to be clear.
You told us the image forms on the retina, remember?
Yes. So if the image is formed somewhere in the middle of the eye and not on the retina, it does not be clear. Then the other issue can be that one's cornea is more curved or the lens is more curved. So they have a high focusing power or refracting power, so the image also forms before the retina. So that is short-sightedness. Now, for the case of long-sightedness, it is the opposite of that. That for it you can see far things a bit clear, but near things within 1 meter, 2 meters don't appear clear. Now, the opposite is that you have a shorter eyeball. The distance from the cornea here, the transparent part I told you, up to the retina is shorter. So images are formed at a point beyond the retina. Maybe the other one who is the cornea and the lens are less curved. So they have a less refracting power. That is why the image is formed beyond where it could be formed. The other one is astigmatism. But ideally, astigmatism comes from the shape of the cornea being irregular. That one has separate focusing meridians. So, ideal astigmatism can combine both short-sightedness and long-sightedness. One can, in this direction they are short-sighted of their eye, in this direction they are long-sighted. Or it can be long sight, but of different magnitudes in different directions. Or it can be short sight, but in different directions. So that is astigmatism, which is brought about by the irregular shape of the cornea. The other fourth one is what I talked about as presbyopia. Presbyopia is much of a common, a scientific word that may not easily be understood. And people usually confuse this with the wrong-sightedness. But presbyopia is the failure of people to focus on small near things. For example, somebody is cutting fingernails, they don't see them well. Somebody is putting a thread in the needle, they're missing it. Somebody is trying to read things, they don't see them clearly. So these are the people, exactly, you find them experiencing doing this for them to see clear. But this happens to people of around 40s and above. But how does it come about? The lens in our eyes is the one that focuses. But with the age, when one gets into 40s, the ability of this lens to contract so that it can make you see small near things reduces. It tends to remain relaxed instead. So that is where those people who have reached 40.
So also the lens grows old.
Yes, it gives that elasticity in it keeps reducing. Yeah? So that is why somebody may fail to see small near things. Because of that, it reduces its ability to contract for you to see small near things. So in that case, people tend to confuse it like that. I'm wrong-sighted, I see far things, I don't see near things. But that is completely different. Otherwise, wrong-sightedness is something that starts way back from childhood. Yes.
Then for the infections?
For the infections, They are really broad. That is what I can say. Because infections depends on the part of the eye that is affected. But usually it cuts across. For example, I can give an example of an infection like bacterial infection in the eye. So in most cases it will affect your eye that you can experience the pain, the redness, you see discharge, those yellowish white things from the eyes. You wake up, the eyes just stuck. So bacterial conjunctivitis, meaning it is affecting the conjunctiva there. Then the other infection can be allergic conjunctivitis, meaning it is affecting the conjunctiva, but this is an allergy that usually you won't see presents with its own things of tearing, itching, eye redness, eye pain, but you won't see discharge from the eyes if it is an allergic conjunctivitis. It can also be a viral conjunctivitis. You are there, maybe you were digging or what, some soil or what fell in your eyes, and unfortunately you picked up a virus, for example, adenoviral virus. So that would be viral conjunctivitis. More or less presents like an allergic conjunctivitis. You also won't see those yellowish discharges from your eyes.
Okay.
Yes. Then other diseases can affect the cornea. You find it is also inflamed, which we would call keratitis. Other diseases can affect the lens, as I said, the opacities, cataracts. Other ones can affect the back of the eye, the retina. You find, for example, people who have diabetes, that is sugar, and hypertension, that is high blood pressure. Now, this retina has blood vessels on it. The arteries and the veins. Now, trouble comes that if somebody does not control this sugar and the blood pressure, it tends to damage the blood vessels on this retina. Then those blood vessels now leak blood components to the retina, which forms their spots. There is a picture here trying to show some spots formed. So these spots, remember I told you the retina is useful for forming the image. It is like a film. An eye is something you can compare to a camera. It has the cornea, it has the lens which focuses, it has the pupil which can reduce or increase the amount of light entering the eye, and also the film, the retina. Now this retina is the film, so if it is destroyed by either diabetes or hypertension, which now translates into diabetic retinopathy or hypertensive retinopathy, meaning a clear image will not be formed there because it has now those spots. Somebody will see but not clear because of such an issue.
I hope the viewers are getting an image of how your eye could get an infection or a disorder. Maybe doctors, we are almost coming to the closure of the first segment. How can a viewer know that they have an eye infection, because we know health is well?
I will generalize and talk about how can one know that I have, how can one know that I have an eye problem? Because what happens is that we have eyes, we can be seeing normal, or you don't feel any pain with the eyes. Now, what would actually insinuate one that I actually have an eye problem? There are some things that can happen. One, the eyes itch. Two, eyes can be red. Eyes can, there can be fear of light. Then the other thing is one can experience poor vision, not seeing clearly. That would mean one has some eye problem. One can also experience headaches with the eyes. And there are so many other things that one can also see by their eyes. I don't see clearly, oh, I have eye pain, my eyes are now red than normal. Remember, I told you that we have blood vessels on the conjunctiva, meaning we can never have a pure white eye. So I always tell people to know the normal redness of their eyes. Say that in case something has changed, they easily know that, this is not the idea how my eyes have been looking, something must be wrong. So those are some of the things that can present, and one actually tends to think there could be an issue with an eye. So they need medical attention to see how that can be managed. Actually not even managed, but first find out what exactly is affecting the eye not to look or be in the normal way it should have been.
So the viewers have gotten an image of how you could know that you have an eye infection. And let's first get for a short commercial break. Then the next segment will give us on some of the preventive measures on home management you could do at home to keep your eyes safe. Thank you very much. Let's get back.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. Kylian Mbappe! Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, the team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium, Channel 259 and Channel 246. Starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Health is wealth. We'll be back at the viewers from that short commercial break. It's still the DAKTARI show, and this is a health educative program which airs on Scientific every Thursday from the hour of 11 to noon. And today we were blessed. We have an eye specialist, a specialist in optometry, Dr. Osbert, who took us in the first segment, eye health and care, where I mainly first took us through the structure of the eye. How can you know, like the visual part of it, you could know the structures in your eye. You took us through the disorders and the infections your eyes could get. Now we're back from that short commercial segment. Doctor, viewers may need to know, what are some of the home or remedies or first aids they could do in order to safeguard their eyes? Because we have seen often in the community, when people get these eye infections, they are using herbs, and some maybe they want to be models, they are getting eye whiteners in order to make the eyes look white. How could you clarify on that, and also the appropriate or the advised home remedies viewers could do?
For that case, I'm picking out two things. One, eye whiteners. Two, about using the herbs. Now, for the case of eye whiteners, as okay, why eye whiteners are actually drugs. These drugs are vasoconstrictors. I already told you that our eyes have blood vessels on the conjunctiva. Then the other transparent part of the cornea that I told you here does not have any blood vessel. It gets its nutrients from those blood vessels. So eye whiteners have components of drugs which are vasoconstrictors. So they do constrict blood vessels on the conjunctiva, push away blood, and the eye looks white. But the moment the mechanism of the duration of action of these drugs is done, maybe if it is 2 hours, 1.5 hours, the blood vessels gain back their normal size, blood comes back, and the eye is red again. But in actual sense, it is not something good to do for our eyes, because when you're pushing away that blood, the cornea that I told you has no blood vessel. That is why it is clear and manages to capture the objects that you see. It makes the light pass through. So when you're taking away the blood, you are depriving it of the nutrients it gets from the adjacent blood vessels on the conjunctiva. So in the long run, you could deform your cornea and it becomes cloudy, whitish, opaque, and you destroy your vision like that. And that is a permanent damage the moment the cornea is damaged to that level. Now the other one I picked is about using herbs. Now using herbs is that one, the forms in which we use these things. That I will go get some leaves or what, I chew them, I put in the eye. Now, issues come with those particles, what that go along. As you blink, they can destroy the eye and the cornea. It forms those scars and ulcers, corneal scars. So the cornea can also end up turning cloudy and somebody will lose vision. You see as if they have covered a paper on you, because the cornea has been destroyed by those particles that used in the herbs to put there. Actually, the other thing people usually do, even use urine. This one I will say it blankly. People use urine that because I have a red eye, I have what I can use urine. But that should not be the point, because urine does not have any drug component to manage either this bacterial infection or viral infection or an allergic infection, or if it is short-sighted or long-sighted, it has nothing to do with any drug, even, except for some cases where there is a drug called atropine used to manage progression of short-sightedness, myopia in children. So this urine does not have any drug component. You are actually using something for the case that you had somebody used what, they got okay, but it was just the time that within that time somebody was healing. But ideally nothing in urine will help you to cure this eye infection. Then the recommended home remedies one can do. One, it is first assessing and knowing exactly. Go get to an eye place. For example, this mega optical center. You can be checked, you can be assessed, then the diagnosis come up with of what is affecting your eyes. Then you manage it appropriately. If it is a bacterial infection, you are managed that way. If it is viral infection, you are managed that way. Then also depending on what infection it is, there are home remedies like warm compresses if it is bacterial infection, or cold compresses if it is allergic, cold compresses if it is viral. But what do I mean by warm compresses? Get a clean cloth, warm water, massage the eyes. Cold compresses, get a clean cloth, cold water, massage the eyes. Those are some of the home remedies, but they are done after assessing and knowing this is what you're suffering from. We are managing it with this drug or hydro, or you are referred to a specialist who can help you manage that, and then you add on those home remedies too as something added on the management too. One, make the healing easier and faster. Yes.
Hope our viewers are getting an image, and he has made it clear that it's not advisable to use these herbs and maybe eye whiteners because they could put us at risk. So now maybe, doctor, we assume someone maybe had an eye problem. It could be maybe redness of the eyes. They have done the home remedy, like you said, warm compress, and they have come to the facilities. How do you always assess maybe someone has either a refractive error or maybe this infection?
When one presents to an eye clinic or an eye place or a hospital with an eye department, for example, if you come here at Mega Optical Center, the first thing we do is to assess the situation, and we see what to do first. Because if, for example, somebody has had an eye injury or something has fallen in the eye and it is very irritating, there is no way I can start by assessing how best they see what. The immediate help is to do away with whatever has fallen in the eye that is disturbing them. For example, there are people who can have something fell in the eye, they were riding, or those foreign bodies, we call them foreign bodies, things get stuck in the eye. So either on the cornea or mostly sometimes inside the eyelids, mostly up here, it gets stuck there, and the moment you blink like this, it scratches the cornea so much, so the pain is too much. So we first manage that to fight first and see how we can remove that foreign body, for example, if it is there. But somebody who comes with eye issues, we first go through one, what we usually begin with is to assess and determine how best they see. You see these letters, they start from here and go on reducing. So you can determine, some people can see and stop here, they can't see these others. So after that you have to assess and then get out exactly what is causing them to see up to here and not see the small letters. That is ideally the first thing that always begins with an eye assessment. So what happens? One does not see clearly, stops somewhere. It simply means in your management we have to first assess and see what is causing them not to see clearly. Is it a refractive error? Are they short-sighted, long-sighted, or it is something different? So one, we can assess how one best sees by this machine, which is an autorefractor. So it can help us measure out somebody's level of short-sightedness or long-sightedness. In short, the lens power they would require in their spectacle for them to see clearly. For the case of short-sighted, myopia, long-sighted, hyperopia, or astigmatism, the one I talked about, which can be mixed myopia, short-sightedness, or mixed long-sightedness, or both, just because you have different powers in different directions. So we can use this autorefractor to find out the power one requires in their spectacle, which we can now later make for them a spectacle when the lens is measured of what they require. There is this other machine, this is called a retinoscope. This retinoscope also does what this one does. It can also be used to measure out the amount of power, the lens power somebody requires to see clearly. So we have a trial frame, for example. So, and the trial lenses, all these are lenses in here. This is a trial case full of lenses. So after measuring out the lens one requires, we have to try on them and find out now and see they stopped somewhere here to see. So if we have this lens that we have measured, does it now help them see up to here? So that could correct their short-sightedness or long-sightedness or astigmatism with corrective spectacle lenses, which we now, after finding out the final power they require for their short-sighted, long-sighted or astigmatism, which we now make for them in a frame to now come with spectacle that has the lenses that helps one to see clearly. That is for the case of refractive errors. Short-sightedness, in brackets myopia, long-sightedness, which we call hyperopia, then astigmatism, which can be a mixture of short sight, long sight, but in different directions on one's eye. The other one I haven't talked about is the presbyopia. That one of people failing to see near things and they need to keep pushing. We also measure out the powers they require for their seeing. Then they can get a spectacle. For example, this is a reading glass, which they put on and they now can do the reading work or cut fingernails or fix threads in the needle. Those small near things, they can now do them easily with a reading power which is measured for them, which they require. Secondly, for those ones, a spectacle can be made that is double. For example, this one, this is a bifocal spectacle. It has powers here, down and up. In the upper section, it corrects your short-sightedness or long-sightedness or astigmatism, or if you are not, it can also be made with no power in the upper section, but with a reading power in the lower section. You put on, you can see far and also see near at the same time. The other type is a progressive spectacle, which is also a 2-in-1, but for it is blended and it does not show that it is actually a 2-in-1. One can also use it to see far and do the near work, reading fingernails, putting threads in the middle, you're reading your Bible, your Quran, all like that. So that is how the refractive errors could be assessed and managed in that case. Then there is the other part of infections. The infections. Now, for the infections, definitely when you receive a patient, you have to go through history taking, ask them when did this start, if it is pain when, if it is discharge when, if it is redness when, how is it progressing, what have they used, like that. So you also do other tests actually to confirm that this is a bacterial infection. Even depending on the presentation, the symptoms and signs can differentiate that this is bacterial, this is viral, or this is allergic. So depending on what it is, the doctors you meet or wherever we can refer you to can manage that appropriately. If it is viral infection with viral ointments or eye drops, if it is bacterial with the antibiotics, ointments and eye drops, if it is allergic with anti-inflammatory eye drops and allergies and the sort, or depending on the severity and what, the doctor managing you can choose what exactly to use, whether it is tablets or so to swallow, something like that. Then there are other things that can affect the eye, apart from it being an issue that requires a corrective spectacle, or just an infection that just requires an eye drop or a drug. So, for example, the cataract I talked about, the opacities in the lens, those ones are only managed by doing a surgery with ophthalmologists. They do the surgery They now remove that opaque lens, they put a clear artificial lens.
I'm imagining how you have to be keen on doing surgery of the eye.
Yeah, of course they are specialists, they have studied that, they have done that, they have experience, so they can do that surgery. They remove the opaque lens, they put the artificial clear lens. After that, one may see clearly, or they may not see clearly because they have turned out short-sighted or long-sighted. So on top of that, they need to be assessed and measured for the spectacle, the corrective lens they require to put on to now see clearly. Then there are other cases whereby you have assessed somebody, fails to see up to the last ones, but then you also assess, you find they are not short-sighted, not long-sighted, not what. Then there is this machine which is an ophthalmoscope. This one can be used to see inside your eye, even to see the back of the eye, the retina, those blood vessels, whether they are normal, whether they are okay, whether there is something on the blood, on the retina that could be causing issues. So there are those who could have retinal issues that it is, for example, I talked about glaucoma, that pressure building and destroying the retina. I talked about diabetic retinopathy. I talked about hypertensive retinopathy. So those are things that can fail one to see clearly, but when you check, measure out, you find they are not short-sighted, they are not long-sighted.
Yeah.
But still they don't see clearly. Meaning the issue would be an issue separate from being a refractive error, but maybe at the back of the eye.
Yeah.
So that can be assessed, also managed accordingly. You are referred specialists that can manage those issues accordingly with medications that manage it. But in most cases, not in most cases, when you have an issue with seeing clearly, and it is an issue to do with a retina that it got destroyed, the vision you have lost, you can never regain it. The management that is done at that level is to prevent further and further damage that causes more loss of vision that you could even now go blind. And also to prevent it progressing, you becoming blind at a faster rate. But what you have lost can never be regained, not even can never be regained. So that is also some level of management that can be done for those cases.
Hope the viewers are getting an image or a visual thing, like imagining how these maybe the eye disorders or infections are managed whenever you go to the health facilities for specialized care. Now maybe Dr. to ask a question. We saw during this period of red eyes, which you call conjunctivitis, people were using some eye drops and they were not working. What could be the reason to that?
The reason of using eye drops and they are not working, it can happen. One is that sometimes somebody gets a problem, instead of going for them to be assessed and they find out what exactly is affecting them, so that they can be referred appropriately for proper management. People go and buy whichever eye drop they need, because outside there people think those things are the same and manage things the same, but they are actually different and manage things different. So one can be having a bacterial conjunctivitis, but instead they are using an anti-inflammatory, which cannot kill a bacteria in any way. So in that case, the eye drop may not work and help because they are using a wrong thing. So if they are assessed and referred to where they can get the exact and better assessment for what they are suffering from better.
Okay.
If they go to any eye clinics, eye places that can do that better. Secondly, with antibiotics, there is something we call antibiotic resistance. If people just misuse or overuse anyhow, these microorganisms develop resistance towards those
drugs.
So you use a drug because you have a variant that is resistant to it, and it does not also work for you. But in that case, if you are assessed and you are told what affects you is this and this one failed to work, that means they can now switch to another type that maybe could help out and work on that issue.
Viewers, you have gotten to know that self-medication actually, that's it, is not recommended, as it can put you economically wise expending where you're not appropriate to managing the infection. Maybe as we're almost coming to the closure of the program, Doctor, what are some of the preventive measures the community could do to prevent these eye problems?
The preventive measures, they are the same things that we do for other general things, idea. Things like keeping yourself clean, washing your hands regularly, because at the end of it all, will be there, you end up touching your eyes, touching where, touching what, picking here, and these things can spread in such ways that I have an infection, I touched somewhere, another one touched their eyes, they take it. So washing our hands regularly, for example, can prevent some level and help us. Other things like you have woken up, effort to wash your face, wash your eyes, so that you take away those dirty things and you be clean, you keep them clean. Two is some other kind of things that if somebody has an infection and you are touching them all over, you may end up getting it, and some of these things are contagious. But then for the case of eye disorders, you are short-sighted, you are long-sighted, you are astigmatic. Those are issues that mostly somebody who is short-sighted, for example, that they require a lens of maybe -2.5 for them to see clear. Because those people exist that you come, you assess them, they can only see this line here. But now, when you give them a -2.5 after measuring a lens of -2.5, they can read up to here. Those are things that can happen even from childhood. This person, their eye formed that way, it is either shorter than normal, corresponding to the refractive power of the lens inside and the cornea, so they are short-sighted naturally. That is how they are created. It means this person will put on this spectacle for their seeing clearly for the rest of their life. And these are things that are even genetical. If your grandparents, your parents were short-sighted, there are high chances